Good morning. This is Dave T1963, and seasons are vastly approaching all of us. And I wanted to just make a quick video for all these hard working young hunters that's got, maybe they've got a family, maybe they've got a job that don't allow a lot of time in the woods and stuff like that. I want to encourage you that you don't have to kill a monster buck to quantify or to even have a rewarding season. Okay. Uh, Man, with YouTube, it's very easy to get caught up, but you have to understand a lot of these videos are being made by people that are living in areas where there's quite a few decent bucks around, or they have limited private, or, they control the access to it and stuff like that. And that's a different environment than a lot of people hunt. This video is for that, maybe the school teacher, maybe it's a young couple, and you've got kids in school and sports and all that, and you just don't have a lot of time. So how do you have, a good season that meets all the things that we wanted to do as far as challenge and stuff like that? And there's several ways you can do it. All right. For me personally, one of the things, I'm at a point in life where I can travel anywhere and go hunt just about any deer that I want. And so, that's once again, I could go to private farms and hunt deer in Kentucky and stuff like that and shoot some good bucks. All right. But one of the challenges I like now is I like to pick out a new wildlife management area, and I like to go in and scout that year. And for me, one of the goals is I want to take a nice buck that's a fair representative of a 3.5, 4.5 year old deer on that piece of public land. I want to do that every year, a new piece every year, and I want to learn it. I want to pick out several of the deer that are living on, and I like to take a buck that I have some scouting knowledge of. Okay, not a random walk by. For me, it's picking out a deer, maybe 3 or 4 deer in that property, and say one of these deer is my goal. I'm going to take them. So that can be very rewarding. Another way to do it is, you know, where I live personally, the nearest public land in Texas to me is an hour and a half away. It's very near Dallas Fort Worth, and it's extremely pressured. I'm not going to go in there and try to kill a 130, 140-inch whitetail on there, because it's just there's not there's very few of them on that public land. Okay, so what I would do in that case is I'm going to go down there and learn the area, and once again, I'm going to identify 3 or 4 of the better bucks on that piece of property, and that's going to be my target. And I'm going to say something. When you get to the level where you're going after a specific animal, I don't care if it's a doe or a buck, but you are hunting a specific animal, that can be one of the most challenging hunts that you will ever have. And I don't care if it's on public or private. In some states, it's almost that much harder. In ag country, I've hunted a lot of ag country, and I will just say food sources are pretty consistent. It's not that hard to overall pattern deer patterns in ag country. They're either hitting beans, corn, or they're hitting acorns, or even some browse. But it's pretty easy, especially through cameras and long range glassing, to determine and figure out what the food sources are that the animal that you wanted. In some of the southern areas, like in Mississippi, Louisiana, East Texas, that is very hard to do. So once again, this video isn't made for the average person like me that's semi-retired, or has the kind of job or owns a business to where they can take 3, 4, 5 weeks off during hunting season, hunt multiple states. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I'm talking about to especially those up and coming hunters that are just getting into this, that may not have access to a large amount of public land or private land, and are living in areas where there's not a 130-inch deer, walking around. There are some parts of this country where the average 2.5-year-old can be over 120 inches. There's other parts in the country that where a 5.5, 6.5-year-old buck is lucky to make it to 120 inches. Okay, So it's all relative to what you have time for, what areas you have access to, and the kind of genetics and stuff that you have there. But what I want to get across to you is there are many ways to set yourself up to have a very challenging and rewarding hunt that's equivalent to any other hunt that you could go on. All right? And let me just say this. Horns on a wall quantify that animal. What that speaks to that animal's ability to survive, genetics and all that. It does not always transfer over to the ability of a hunter. Okay, killing a 140-inch deer in a place like Ohio and some other states, I'm not going to mention them because they get offended, but killing a 140-inch deer, if you're hunting in that state all your life and you got 10, 15, it's just not that unreasonable to expect to see a 140-inch deer every year. When I went to Ohio, I would be dismayed if I didn't see a 140, 150-inch buck. Okay, there's places in Texas where I have never seen a 150-inch deer. Okay, there's other places where I have. Same with Oklahoma. It really is relevant to what you have available. But that don't equate to hunter skill necessarily. But when you go into a new piece of property and can dissect it and take a mature animal, when you pick out a particular animal, whether it's a piebald doe, a deer that's got a unique rack, or it's just the best representative that you have available, and you go after that deer specifically, and you get to where you can do that consistently, that speaks to me far more on your ability of a hunter than a whole barn shed full of bucks if you're living in an area that has that kind of buck as a 3.5-year-old. Okay? So anyway, don't get discouraged. I know when you're watching all these YouTube videos and you see all these big bucks being slayed by people, just keep in mind where they're hunting. Keep in mind if they have limited access to that area. Iowa is very easy to come across a big buck because not everyone can go to Iowa and purchase a tag. Okay? So keep that all in mind. But the bottom line is get out there, set some goals that are reasonable for you, and have a great season, man. Have fun. Go out there and work at it and have fun. And I guarantee you, when you set realistic goals that are challenging for you and you meet them every year, you're going to have a great season. All right? Dave T1963 out.